That's Nick.
Not Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Cut, the sixth film directed by Sean Ellis, which premiered at the 2024 Toronto International Film Festival. So exactly a year ago this week, Republic Pictures is releasing it theatrically September 5th, 2025.
Are you familiar with Sean Ellis's other films?
Actually, I have seen all of his other films.
Oh,
And
wow.
he's a filmmaker that tends to go between some interesting genre fare, um, into kind of films like the one we're about to discuss, which is people stuck in desperate situations, sometimes of their own making. But I think he got a lot of attention for his debut film Cashback in 2005. I remember you watched with me his film The Broken, starring Lena Headey, which has a interesting car crash sequence. But I remember being a fan of Metro Manila. Anthropoid was okay. His last feature was a pretty interesting werewolf period piece film, and I'm forgetting the name of the title. I think it was out of Sundance, but at the theatrical release, the title was changed to The Cursed, which is very generic and I don't think helped that film at all. But he's a filmmaker that to me has always seemed like he has some interesting storytelling abilities, but every time he has a film come out, there's something that kind of overshadows it. And I feel like that is kind of the same with this one, as we'll get into.
What is The Cut about? A retired boxer returns to the ring for one last shot at the title, but only if he can make the weight. Holed up in a room in Las Vegas, he embarks on an intensive and illegal weight cut program with an unscrupulous trainer. What is your pull quote?
Orlando Bloom's performance is the main selling point as a tortured boxer so desperate for a second shot, this takes on be careful what you wish for dimensions. But ultimately, it's a horror film about weight loss and obsession without variations in narrative.
Mmm, mine. Orlando Bloom gives it his all, but The Cut is more a parody than a gritty character study, clumsy with its eating disorder themes and centered on a lead you can't bring yourself to root for.
I think this film should have been called You Got to Cut It, and then that could have been the song that played.
Oh, well, let's start there because I thought this soundtrack was kind of whack. I'm sorry, this movie did not work for me.
Same. I feel like it gets stuck in a really odd place and never gets itself out from under that.
Okay, the premise I just read is what I read before watching the film, and I was expecting something very different. I was expecting like a psychodrama with body horror elements about this man holed up in a room for a week trying to lose weight and going through all the trauma and the triggers and the baggage and instead it's kind of literal. Like the bulk of the film is this man, Orlando Bloom, who I don't think his character has a name. We know he's dubbed the Wolf of Dublin, but he is trying to lose, I think, nearly 30 pounds in 6 days to fight in this like celebrity match that's supposed to be like when Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson. So you have this like very famous YouTuber who wants to box, and the promoter, this man named Donny, who of course made me think of Don King. He wants the person who was supposed to fight this guy suddenly died. So they need to find someone quick, and the promoter thinks that the best approach is to find like someone who'd make a good comeback story. And so we find out that Orlando Bloom's character 10 years ago was like a star in the boxing world, but then he had a really bad match and then I guess never recovered. There's not I don't feel like I understand his character at all and his motivation, but he reaches out to the promoter unbeknownst to his partner, Caitlin, who's played by,
Trina Balfe.
and they run a boxing gym together. So they go have a lunch meeting with the promoter, and Caitlin is saying, like, no, he can't do this. There's no way he'll lose the weight. He's not trying to even box. I don't know why you're offering him this. And he's like, I'm offering it to him because he called me. So she's kind of shocked and, of course, agrees to go and help him lose this unbelievable amount of weight in such a short time. And so we get the, ubiquitous montage of him training. And my first disappointment is that the story is so focused on this man losing a very specific amount of weight, like down to the ounce, like a tenth of an ounce. in a very specific amount of time. And yet the story doesn't really give us markers as to where we are in the chronology. I would have done like literally like timestamps throughout, like, 54 hours until weigh-in. But at a point, they realize Orlando's not going to lose the weight. And thankfully, John Turturro is also there training another boxer who's fighting. And he basically says, I can get him to lose the weight. And we can get into the details, but through extreme measures, Orlando Bloom is able to make the weight the night of the fight. And then we hear the fight happen. We don't see it, like we hear commentator. And then the final scene is Orlando calling Caitlin because once he started training with John Turturro, she went back home. And he's telling her how the fight went while he's sitting in a diner looking at food.
Hmm. They did have a falling out though that was significant. I think you could have to your timestamp note. This could have been called "How to Lose Weight in 10 Days." I don't believe that the fight would have gone on based on the drastic measures taken
Okay,
to make
let's
it work.
start there because, yeah, I also felt like the way this man walked into the fight, I don't believe that he would have been able to stand up to fight this man, let alone when we hear the commentary about the fight. It sounds like he gave this kid a run for his money. I just can't.
Mhm.
He looked like when you see those people who do those like mega marathons or like the triathlons and then they finally finish and their body looks like it's fully drained and that's how Orlando's character started the fight. So I just like I don't know how this worked.
Well, I think we should, if you recall the beginning of the film when we see him losing that fight from 10 years prior, he gets uh like stuck in the like mentally stuck in the ring, if I recall, and we keep having flashbacks to a situation regarding his mother.
Oh, you know what? That is a better start. The we get a lot of flashbacks to his mom, who we find out was a prostitute
Uh,
and was turning tricks in front of him. The way it's presented, I hate to say it, but it was giving me like the girl in the closet. Like it's that
Emmy Roman, it's not that cheap.
well, but it's just kind of comical. Like so you have this curly-haired kid who just looks so downtrodden and his mom turning tricks and then he's associate like clearly like the trauma of his childhood has affected him as an adult and it just sort of because I guess my other big issue is I don't understand if we're supposed to think this man has an eating disorder because a big part of his childhood is him being hungry.
I think that that is part of it that we don't really explore, except for maybe some sneak eating bits that we see. But do you also? I was confused at the flashbacks because that little boy, that brown looking little boy, I was like, is that supposed to be Orlando Bloom?
Oh,
I
I
was so
wrote that down. I wrote that down. He looked like he could be my cousin. I didn't understand who that little actually that little kid, if I pull up some old baby pictures of me, that little kid wasn't too far off. So I was confused.
I was like,
Also,
whose childhood memories are these?
also I put down Orlando and his little kid version are going on my worst hair list because Orlando has like this, I don't even know what to call it, like a rat tail faux hawk.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, this is what bothered me so much about his hair. So, aside from how I hated how it looked, because it's like he had buzzed his head, and then the back is like a faux hawk. So there's like kind of a party in the back, but then the way the front of his head looks, it looks like he had shaved it, like fully buzzed it a while ago, and now it's just growing back after a couple months. So I don't understand what that look is supposed to be about. And then when we see him as a kid, he has a mop of curly hair. But this movie is so focused on his character losing weight down to like a tenth of an ounce. So wouldn't it have made sense for Orlando Bloom as an adult to have longer hair and then maybe part of the cutting process is he buzzes his head? Because spoiler on top of spoiler, the way Orlando's character is finally able to make the cut, because he's like zero point 0.2 ounces over, is this man cuts off two of his fingers, and that's how he's able to make it. Which I thought was kind of funny because when they weigh him, he has the bloody towel wrapped around his hand. And I thought, wouldn't that towel weigh as much as two half fingers? Like, I don't.
I don't know. He also cut it. The cutting board he cut it off on was that a big spiral ham on there or something?
Oh,
All
I'm
I could
so
think was
glad.
you have to throw all that food away.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that food spread looked like it was for Easter Sunday.
It's
But they're at like a
yeah.
boxing weigh-in, which I guess is probably tradition. Like they're gonna want to eat, but then they probably wouldn't want to eat. I don't know. That looks crazy to me. But yeah, of course they have to throw all that food away. But I hated that his character didn't. I wanted him to buzz his head to make the weight. Like, because we see him doing so getting back to his childhood. So we see the juxtaposition of him growing up with a mother who was like a prostitute, turning tricks to feed him. Because at one point we get a scene where he says, "Mom, I'm hungry." And then his mom pulls up to like a military base, puts on
Yep.
some lipstick, walks out to the troops, and they immediately take her ass to the back. And then
She's singing for her supper. Yeah.
and then we see him take the money she made and buy a twirl milk chocolate bar, which is right after we see him, because we see him cheating on his diet a few times throughout the film, and then he'll like vomit it up. I think if like this character has this disordered eating, the script does a really poor job of connecting the dots.
Well, because I think that would have shown up. I feel like we needed some more establishing of that before Gary Beadle shows up as the promoter. Um, that this is a regular thing that he does.
Right, right. Because then I'm thinking of like the movies about the horse jockeys where they have to, be as tiny as possible. And I don't know. I just think there's a better way to integrate this obsession with weight. Because, the other funny thing is Orlando Bloom, he did in a lot of work because it does look like his body was transformed. They must have filmed this like in sections where he was able to like get as lean as he could, and then in the parts where they're trying to make him look schlubby, he's still, I mean, I would dream to have a body like that. And then all he's doing is poking out his belly.
No, this was shot in real time, Joseph. This is a real transformation. I guess he lost 35 pounds for the role. I mean, good for him. It kind of reminds me his recent filmography. He goes in like there was this so-so genre film he did called Red Right Hand with Danny McDowell, and we reviewed that film called Retaliation where he played that man that had been, I believe, molested by the priest. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that film? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So I think he's trying to pick really compelling and daring ventures for himself, but I don't know. This one needed a few more. Turns the screw on the script.
So when we first meet little Orlando, like him in flashbacks, we see that he's probably been bullied and beaten up. And his mom, who's rough around the edges, she basically slaps him and says, "You get to be the one that hurts, or you get to be the one that makes other people hurt." And I guess that's the one line of dialogue that explains why he became a boxer.
I guess.
I mean, there's
Again, it's like at odd moments he's having these memories, it seems, of his mother. So like though that period in his life is still haunting him, but I'm just not seeing where the pieces kind of fit together or how I don't know,
right.
because he has a very supportive wife who's very lovely, played by the very beautiful Caitríona Balfe, who seems to support all the decisions he makes up to a point until he loses control. But I just don't get how she wouldn't have, as his intimate partner that is also training him, have kind of snagged some of these issues yet.
Yeah. Okay, so moving to how he loses the weight. So initially, he goes to Vegas, which is where the fight is happening, with his partner, Caitlin, and then I guess like his right-hand man, this guy named Manny, I believe.
Manny.
And they have and I think there's one more person who goes with them, but they have like a pretty strict plan of like, this is what he's going to eat. And we get a montage of seeing like his meal prep, and it's like three string beans, like one broccoli floret, six pecans, and that he has to sort of gradually reduce his water intake. And so they do that for a period of time, and they see that he's only lost like maybe 10 or 12 pounds, and it's not enough. And then we had met John Turturro before because he's training this boxer named, I believe his name is Luscious Lupe.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I thought John Turturro's character is doing too much. I thought that dialogue was terrible.
It's terrible because all he's doing is screaming, it's also ubiquitous trainer cliche dialogue, like berating and screaming at these fighters to motivate them. It's like, I could do that job.
Right.
It's
And
just,
also he's not offering anything different than what Caitlin and her team are doing. He kind of mocks them, but then he does the same thing, except he's like, well, he doesn't get breaks. He just has to do cardio 24/7. Ultimately, what turns the tides is that that other boxer, Luscious Lupe, gives him some drugs. And I wasn't clear what they were, but I'm assuming it was like an upper so that he could deprive himself of sustenance and still keep going.
you know what he needed? Whatever Janet Jackson talked about, what she was on to lose all that weight. Remember that gives all kinds of interviews where she speaks about she takes something and all the water would just leave her body.
Well, that's what they do here. So then he starts taking a diuretic. They sweat him out. The part that was the most crazy is John Turturro's character is like draining the boxer's blood, like
Very Lance Armstrong.
yeah, like reducing blood volume. So on the day of the day before oh no, it was the day of the weigh-in. He's like, I forget what, like it was a small amount, like zero point 0.4 ounces over. So John Turturro grabs an IV bag and a needle and is like, I'm gonna suck 4 ounces out, zero point 0.4 ounces. But that doesn't work because he has like no blood's coming out. Like he has none. I don't know. So they make him go pee. He can't pee. Then they tell him to basically like ejaculate. So then we get a scene where it looks like he's going to try to do so. I thought that was
Well,
so,
they're all standing there looking at him.
that's what I wrote down. Like, I don't understand why they had to watch him. Like, what do they think he's gonna do? Like he's not gonna eat something while he's in there. So the part that was the most crazy is earlier on when John Turturro becomes Orlando Bloom's trainer, he basically tells him like, in order to lose the weight, you need to like release your emotional baggage. Like you need to get rid of this trauma, which made me laugh because I thought, is that why I can't lose weight? Is that why I'm bloated? Because I have all this baggage.
What was that Clint Eastwood movie, Mystic River? We bury it. The tagline was, "We bury our sins, we wash them clean."
Oh my gosh. So then right before the weigh-in, John Turturro takes him for a drive. And it looks like they drove to like Lake Mead or Boulder City or something. And he has this man dig a hole in the desert and literally bury emotional baggage. Like there are like three duffel bags with weight in it. And he thinks that that's going to be the extra amount of like cardio to get him to lose weight. So they get to the final weigh-in, and of course, Orlando's completely naked. We don't see anything, but we can tell he's naked. And he's still like the tiniest bit over. And he walks over to the craft services table and chops off those two fingers.
Not before they reweigh him like three times. Like, weigh him
But let's,
again. Like,
we were talking before we hit record, because I also feel like a big plot point to the weigh-in is that Donny, the promoter, tells Orlando Bloom and his partner, oh, I'll take care of it. Because she's saying he's sitting at like 180 something. There is no way he's going to get down to 150 whatever in a week. And he's like, don't worry about it. They're not going to do check-ins. And then on weigh-in day, it'll be fine. And then as soon as they get to Vegas, they want to do a weigh-in. And he's able to get by it by convincing the proctor to let these two big guys basically lift Orlando Bloom by his butt cheeks to make him less heavy. And then that same proctor is there on the night of the weigh-in and is saying like, he's over, he's over.
That's what I meant by it gets stuck on that point, and then that is literally what the rest of the film is about, and just that.
Did you find Orlando's dialogue difficult to understand?
I think it needed to be subtitles.
Well, because someone makes fun of him saying, like, there's this young boxer, like this little hot shot at his boxing ring, and he makes fun of how Orlando's character mumbles. And I thought, yeah, I mean, if that's going to be a character trait, we need subtitles because I didn't understand some of what he was saying. We're told that Orlando's going to have to do press and take some pictures, which I thought was weird because as soon as they get to Vegas, we see Orlando's image like on video, which means they already took video of him. I feel like we probably should have seen some of that. But he, halfway through the movie, Orlando ends up going to a children's hospital, like as a PR thing. And there's the most awkward scene where his character wants to talk to a kid, and they juxtapose that with his memory of his mom. And I just thought, like, what is this? And what is he talking about?
Yeah, because he stays behind with Caitríona watching him at the foot of the bed, giving a pep talk to this kid about motivation. And it's like, okay.
I think, because I wrote down that this feels more like a parody than anything. I think it mainly comes from John Turturro. His character is always glaring, and like there are a couple scenes where he's eating and like he's like licking on an ice cream cone. And in the scene where he gives Orlando the diuretic, he says, "We're gonna dry you up like a sweet raisin." Okay.
I like Don Turturro, but yeah, it's camp for sure.
We get a moment that I feel like was more along the lines of what I was expecting, which is now Orlando Bloom's character is with that other boxer, Luscious Lupe, and he's giving him the drugs. And then we get a sequence where they're tripping balls and it's doing the whole psychedelic thing and they're kind of like hallucinating. That was kind of more of what I was thinking we were going to get. I don't think it's handled the best, but
Well, yeah, something kind of nightmarish because Luscious Lupe is losing his mind in
yeah.
several scenes.
Of course, on the final couple days, Orlando's just straight up out of it. And Caitlin walks in on John Turturro draining their blood. So, of course, she freaks out. And then Manny, his right-hand man, is trying to get him up and get him dressed and remove the IV. And Orlando punches him. And Manny falls on a blood bag that bursts, which, of course, made me think of one of them days when Kiki Palmer's
Yeah.
donating blood and it splatters everywhere. But that scene was kind of odd because Caitlin punches Orlando. And then, so that's what you were referring to as kind of their big blow up. I don't know. I didn't feel anything between those two characters. I don't understand their relationship. You said his wife, but I don't know what she is to him. We see them kiss, so I guess they're romantic.
They're intimates, I'm sure. But yeah, the fallout doesn't feel very like the point where she finally walks away from him should feel considerable emotionally for him because he's chosen, he's chosen the wrong thing. He's not doing the right thing anymore. And that's his ultimate fall from grace. But that's again, it just once we get to the point where he has to lose the weight, that's all that defines the second half of the film. So it flatlines essentially.
Well, speaking of flatlining, there's a moment where John Turturro has Luscious Lupe and Orlando Bloom in the hotel and he's sweating them out and they're like damn near dead. And he has to go grab ice and he's all alone. So he's freaking out because he knows he can't leave them alone because they're that close to death. And so he says, I'm going to get ice, like, don't fall asleep. And the minute he walks out the door, Orlando Bloom passes out. And then when he comes back, John Turturro, he freaks out and has to get Orlando in the tub. And his character looks fully deceased. Like, I thought that was going to be the end of the movie, that he died. But no, he does wake up.
Uh, but it's funny. I think that this film also has the unfortunate timing of being released right on the cusp of the Smashing Machine, starring Dwayne Johnson, which there's going to be a ton of heavy PR uh, and Oscar marketing for that film. So this is going. I feel like this film is going to be completely gone with the wind.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, other films that you think about with this type of storyline are obviously like a Rocky or Million Dollar Baby or The Wrestler. Those are superior films. And then I was thinking, there's a film we reviewed called The Fire Inside. And while I thought that production wasn't the best, I enjoyed the movie because the central character is someone I felt for, and based on a real person, but like someone I felt for. I felt her frustrations. I wanted her to win. This, and then we also reviewed that George Foreman biopic, Big George Foreman, that I thought was, piss poor.
That's
But
that's not very good. No. Mm-mm.
this one is kind of somewhere in the middle. Like Orlando Bloom does give a good performance, but this story is so uncompelling. I don't know why he went through this. I don't know why I'm supposed to care. And then it just ends. Like, I don't even think we learn how much money he's going to get. It just sounds like it's going to be significant enough to do it. But then it also, like, did you understand whether or not he thinks that this might propel him back into having a boxing career? I
I
don't.
assumed what he wanted because I don't think it was about the money.
So then I feel like it should have been more clear.
I agree, but I can also see how the development of this story and some of the key elements are interesting because it could have been this could have been shaped into something that feels like a Leaving Las Vegas meets Black Swan, where he really shouldn't be a boxer because he has such a toxic relationship to the sport, and what the significance of this career would mean to him is really ultimately undoes him, and maybe
Yeah.
that shouldn't be what he's pursuing because he doesn't know how to do it in a healthy manner, like a lot of
Right.
people in what they
Yeah.
pursue.
This movie didn't work for me. That being said, I was entertained and not in the way I'm sure the people involved would want. So I think curiosity would be enough to recommend people check it out.
Sure. I was gonna say I also kind of disliked all of the moments with the promoter, played by the Gary Beadle actor. Um, he just had this like very interesting intensity that is not really match. I don't know that all of his dialogue was kind of grating to me as well because you brought up John Turturro, but
I agree, actually. What would you give the cut?
two.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would give it 2 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.